What's going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa and Sukasa. And of course, I am your humble host, Niko House. Today I have with me the political vigilante, Graham Elwood. What is going on, Graham? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, Niko. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
Oh, no problem, man. It's a long time coming, definitely. For those of you who don't know, Graham is definitely a friend of the show and a friend of the network. He's been on the Convo Couch a lot. That he and Ron were gracious enough to allow me to open up for them at their comedy show here in Miami, which was just a dope show. It was such a great turnout that night. It was awesome. And you know, I love the way you and Jimmy and Ron and Steph have been able to take this thing that we do and make it much more relatable and honestly just make it much more human because all the stuff that we talk about is so heavy that it's kind of, you know, it's hard to keep to want people to keep investing their energy into it. And I think that you all have definitely found a sweet spot. So I'm really happy to have you, man. How have things been over there in LA for you?
Well, I mean, it's been obviously it's been an intense time for everybody. I mean, so March 11th, Ron and I were literally going to get on a red eye that night to fly to Florida to do
Oh, I remember your
our
show, right?
our second progressive comedy tour. We're going to do the same venue in Miami that you opened for us at. I mean, we were all set to go, and then everything obviously got shut down. So Um, specific to where I live, Santa Monica. So it was 2 weeks ago, May 31st, that Santa Monica had a peaceful protest um, to talk about police brutality and the murder of George Floyd. And I was at that protest, and the Santa Monica police showed up, riot gear, automatic weapons, ties around their waist, ready to go. And
Mm.
there were protests all over the
So
city
that's
of Los
definitely how you keep everything peaceful, right? Come there ready to
Angeles.
escalate. That's
Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's say exactly, exactly. Let's say Niko, you and I were neighbors, and we had a disagreement, and you're like, Graham, let's just meet at the park and talk this out. And I showed up. Okay, man, how would you feel? Like, oh shit, like this guy's out of his
what what
mind.
what did Brad Pitt call that? That is a Mexican standoff.
I mean, it was it was crazy. And look, I grew up in Chicago, so I'm used to like violent cops. I've had cops threaten to beat the shit out of me and my brother, and all. I mean, all this like. So I've always been like, oh man. Um, when I was at that
Chicago's
protest,
wild.
it was peaceful. I was on the corner of Montana and Ocean Avenue, and we all took a knee. The Black Lives Matter organizers were like getting everybody there. And Santa Monica is a predominantly white community.
Hmm.
It's a beach city. It has some very affluent parts of it north of Montana, and it has like I live in a rent control apartment, right? So um, and that uh, and Santa Monica probably is probably pretty likes to consider itself pretty liberal or open minded or whatever. And the thing too about Santa Monica is it's so I'm a surfer and I'm at the beach a lot. The beaches are for all of Los Angeles comes to Santa Monica and Venice Beach. And so that's always sort of the vibe in Santa Monica. And the cops showed up and were stoking violence and overreacted, and a cop car almost ran me over. And then,
What?
down, oh yeah, yep, we were, and
Why?
all
What's up with LA and just cops just running people over? Why is this becoming a thing out there?
go. I don't know. They like their cars. I don't know what it is, man. It's like, it's, and you know, they, the city of Santa Monica, just to put some context for the viewers, is its own city, right? It's part of Los Angeles County, but it has its own mayor, city council, police, fire department, um, all that stuff. And because it's a big tourist attraction, it has high-end hotels, it has this pier, it has what's called the Third Street Promenade, which is it's like a closed off outdoor mall. Um, and so it generates a lot of tourist residents. It's only as the residents are about 90,000 residents in the city of Santa Monica. Before the quarantine, on any given day, between tourists and all the businesses that operate in Santa Monica, there's anywhere between 400,000 to 500,000 people in the city of Santa Monica on any given day. Um,
Hmm. That's a lot.
that's a lot. So the protests were peaceful, and the cops showed up, and then some people were like, you know, the protesters, the organizers were like, kneel with us, this is a peaceful protest, and and then one person from the back threw like a bottle of water, and the cops flip out. And I'm just like, if you're a cop,
really?
Yeah. And they're like, they're throwing stuff at us. It's like, I'm sorry, sweetie. If a little plastic bottle of water is too much for you, then maybe you should be a security guard at a library.
And maybe even not even that. Because, God forbid somebody accidentally drop a water bottle and you freak out, run and doing, barrel rolls and shit, pulling, get down. Why are you being loud? That's what kills me about the way I see cops react to people. I don't give a damn if somebody's shouting in your damn face. Okay? Yeah. I was a private in the military. I had people shouting in my face 24/7 for 3 months straight. Okay? Guess what? Because we were being trained to be a soldier in situations where things escalate quickly, but you, because of the uniform you have on, are supposed to be calm and reasonable. And our cops seem to be trained to do the opposite. The moment anyone shows any type of aggression, right? Even when it's clearly non-threatening aggression, they're just speaking their mind. They're like, oh, that means we have to put a bullet in you or put you on your ass.
Yes, they literally, and I saw these guys, these amped up dudes ready to go, man. They wanted shit to go, but they were amped, they were ready for it. And look, I was never in the military, but I did 7 comedy tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait. So I've been around the military environment. And I got friends that are cops, but also I just saw it. I saw it, up close. And then, they were more concerned with the protesting on this one street, Ocean Avenue, and they weren't paying attention to the shops in downtown Santa Monica. And then looting and rioting started there. And
it's crazy because for some reason I keep hearing about how people care about all these looters and rioters, and none of them are getting arrested. But I keep hearing about a lot of peaceful protesters getting arrested. I hear about peaceful protesters getting arrested every day. I don't hear anything about looters getting arrested.
Yeah, peaceful protesters are getting and the thing I said, and it was, and I was there from 12 to about 2:30 or so, and then I came back here. It's because it was a Sunday. I did my live stream from 3 to 5, and I had Fiorella from Combo Couch because she was going to tell me her story from the day prior. It's that Saturday, the 30th, how about LAPD shot rubber bullets at peaceful protesters, how they kettled people. They said, "Come this way, go this way."
Yeah.
They told them what they told, and they kettled them in. They were arrested. Her and Johnny were arrested. She was telling me all that. And while this is happening, I have my television on in the background, and I'm just watching the local news show how it's getting out of control in Santa Monica. And
in an affluent community, the people of Santa Monica are gonna just start come on, you know how bougie people are. Bougie people ain't about to destroy their own stuff.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. If looting was really the concern, you're not concerned about the protesters hurting each other. There's no white supremacist situation coming out where white supremacists are coming out to fight the protesters like we've seen in the past. Why not you keep the protesters peaceful by letting them do their thing, and then put cops in front of the major shopping centers to make sure nothing gets broken into? Because to be honest with you, that's how our protests stayed peaceful in Miami in the beginning. And then out of nowhere, I was walking down the street with my wife, and you just see cops put on gas masks.
Yep.
Cops switching out shifts, and then those cops, the ones that were coming in, came full riot gear. I'm like, for what? There's nothing going on right now. And then the moment, like I said, the moment that, like we were talking about off air, the moment one car explodes, protesters were the ones who were blamed, and the mayor was immediately able to put a curfew. Yeah, they put the curfew on immediately. I'm like, hold up, that's not how this shit works. And how the hell were you so ready to issue a curfew?
Yeah, it's they were ready for it. They almost it was choreographed, because here's what the Santa Monica police could have done. So the Santa Monica Pier is a big tourist attraction. Now that's been shut down since the quarantine. So they had a gate up, and they had cops in riot gear. What they should have had, Santa Monica has what's called park rangers. They're people in brown shirts who don't have weapons. They work for the police department, but they control traffic, and that's what they should have done. They should have just said, hey, you can protest, and oh, by the way, the pier's closed because of the quarantine, and then put the cops surrounding all the stores and the nice stuff. and just say, hey guys, the promenade's closed, the shopping's, all that stuff was closed anyway because of the pandemic. And they could have just said, it's sorry guys, this is all closed off. And just some cops in baseball hats. That's all they needed. And instead and then.
Yeah. Because who's going to rob? Are you going to loot a store with cops in front of it?
No, of course not.
So clearly they're for, once again, all this talk of, but they're rioters, but they're looters, but they're rioters, but they're looters. Are y'all really concerned? Because y'all claim to be concerned about the property and, they're destroying their own communities. Why the hell is nobody in front of the property and the stores being looted if this is what your concern is? Because it's not an actual concern. It's what you are using is the quote unquote looting as an excuse to have the cops out there in riot gear to react the way that you react. Because there's also another aspect of this that people don't really discuss. But being a black man who has to deal with the criminal justice system, I know how the game goes, and I know these quotas that usually are being filled by them pulling over person after person after person, kind of indiscriminate of whether or not they actually should be pulled over. They make money regardless. They did not get to collect their money for their respective criminal justice systems, for their court systems, for months. They've lost millions. And I've heard out in California now, because of how many protesters who have been arrested and have had to get bailed out, they've already recouped like multi-millions of dollars.
Yep. It's you saw it all. I mean, Niko, you saw the whole thing. And then of course they dispatched by 5, 6 o'clock, the National Guard was here. Like they were like ready to go with, like they had this all set, and there's military helicopters.
Yep.
And the looting and the rioting, I'm not happy it happened. It broke my heart to watch. It happened blocks from me. But I also understand the economics of this, because look, I'm
people about to lose their houses.
People look, man, I mean, first of all, just the economics of the pandemic. We've got 30 million people unemployed. I mean, on May 31st, I still had not gotten my unemployment. I got it June 5th. Now,
wow.
And I know friends of mine who still haven't gotten it. It's mid-June. And at that point, I had only gotten $1,200 and a couple of grand in an SBA loan, because
that is nothing for California. Holy sh!
Dude, wow. That's nothing. I mean, and so like I was sitting there,
and your tour is shut, and your tour just got shut. That's crazy, man.
Tour got shut down. Like we lost all of our tour dates shut down. I don't know when we're going back on the road. So if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I didn't have Patreon and Rockfin and all that stuff, I thought to myself, I probably might have gone to the grocery store that was looting and put a mask on and said, fuck it, I need food. I mean, I don't condone it, but I get it. Plus I also, and this is the thing I've been trying to tell, like, I had a huge argument with a friend of mine who lives in Santa Monica, like, oh, the looting and the rioting has nothing to do with George Floyd. I go, yeah, the whole system, actually it does.
Yeah, all of it. It's all interconnected. All of
interconnected. It. And the local media is just showing young black youths running out of a shoe store, and they're just showing that footage over and over again.
I heard they got caught looping footage. Like they got caught playing the same thing as if that was. First of all, do you know? Because for people who need to understand the economics of this, people who steal quote unquote shoes, black people specifically, most of the time you see them stealing multiple boxes. There's a reason that they're stealing multiple boxes. You know how much Jordans, especially the right pair, especially the ones that just came out, by the way, the Jordan ones, will go on eBay? Do you know how many people use the things that they loot as they resell them? And that's because people are fucking poor.
Yes.
They are poor. So whenever this pandemic started, Tulsi and a couple of others recommended immediately, hell, before it even started, they said, we're going to have to not suspend, but make it so that we are not having anyone pay for rent or mortgages for the entirety of this quarantine.
Yep.
Even Trump understood that that was a good idea. And what did Congress do instead? They instead say, well, we'll just suspend payments, but your mortgage is still stacking up.
I mean, that just shows you how ineffective the Democratic Party is.
Yeah.
And both parties are corrupt. And I'm sorry, I'm done. I'm done with Bernie. I'm done with Tulsi. I'm done with AOC. I'm done with them. You cannot reform that party. And what part of the reason why the looting happened is what you're talking about. So let's just look at California rents. Let's look at Los Angeles rents. Let's say you have a $2,000 rent or mortgage.
I like to not have heart attacks, so I just try not to look at California's rent at all. Yeah. By the way.
Yeah. So I have rent control. It's a little bit below that. If I didn't, it would be over that. So let's say you have $2,000 and you can't be evicted, but you have to pay it on the back end. So now let's say it's just 3 months. There's $6,000, right? But you still have to pay it back. And you have a year to pay it back. So now your rent, that's $6,000. So now your rent just went from $2,000 to $2,500 a month to pay that back in a year.
And you're supposed to pay it back. By the way, you're supposed to get a year, to pay it back. But a lot of landlords are violating that, I've heard.
Yes. And you still have to pay it back. And had they done what they did in other countries, Venezuela, that's supposed to be this socialist nightmare, they paid people's rent for 6 months. They just said, boom. Like, they've been doing, all these countries did all these other things correctly, and our country didn't. But I also want to go back specifically to Los Angeles, because with regard to the looting in Santa Monica. So I'm big brother to a kid who's Latino, and his grandmother lives in South Central in a neighborhood that is almost exclusively Black and Latino. And I've been there a bunch to pick him up. And you know what they don't have? They don't have REI, smoothie shops, day spas. They don't have Pilates and Trader Joe's and Whole Foods. They have check cashing. They have fast food, they have liquor stores, and then they have a bunch of boarded up buildings. So I got to be honest with you, man, if I was 19, 20 years old and I lived in a neighborhood like that, and I was told I don't matter and nobody gives a shit about me, and I came to a nice neighborhood and no one was paying it, I'd be like, yeah, fuck you. Fuck your nice.
Get how you live.
Yeah. I'd be like, screw you, man. And so people need to understand that. And so, I had military in my town for a week.
That's crazy.
And this is like, I had 2 older white dudes. One, when I was at the peaceful protest, this older white guy comes to me and goes, "You don't even live here. Get the hell out of here." I go, "Yeah, I live here."
Why would he hurt further? How the hell would he even know that?
I know. And then by the way, the protesters was like the most diverse group of people I've ever seen in my life. And a lot of like white people probably protesting at something like this for the first time, and waking up, and like white silence equals violence, and that's powerful, and that's a very positive thing. But then I had another older guy. I went back after I live streamed with Fiorella, because Ron and I were supposed to do a Zoom show. We're doing a fundraiser Zoom show that night, and I was like, "Ron, there's shit happening outside my door. I got to go see I can't do a comedy show if it's like starting to happen here." And so I get on my bike and I ride around, and I see a store that's been looted, and there's a news crew showing the looted store. And I'm like, and I pull up my phone. I wasn't live, but I pull up my phone and I just start going, you notice how the media is only showing the looting, and they're talking about the looting like it's worse than
15 camera crews out there.
Yes. And they talk about the looting like it's 10 times worse than what happened to George Floyd, who was executed. And I go, they won't talk about police brutality. They won't talk about the police brutality that's going on that week in Los Angeles. They won't talk about it. They won't talk about the looting that goddamn Wall Street has done of all of America. And this guy gets in my butt, and I was like, hey man, and at first I started reasoning, I go, no, I'm not happy the looting happened. I mean, some of these are small businesses, and that sucks, I'm a small business owner, but I said, why is the media only covering it this way? And he's like, and he's getting, and I finally go, man, you need to back the fuck up. And
hey, hold up, slow your roll, pimp. All right.
I was like, you need to settle down, dude.
But the fact that he's emotionally, the thing is, why are you so emotional? Because what I feel like it really comes down to viscerally is that for the first time, there are many people, whenever they started seeing protesters go into, Santa Monica being one place, Beverly Hills being another place, all of a sudden, oh shit, Well, I was like indifferent whenever it was just their lives and their safety and their security, being violated. But now I'm unsafe. Oh, well, and they just point to all these random things because they don't want to actually address the issue at hand. Oh, I don't feel safe like you don't feel unsafe now, and I'm not cool with that. I shouldn't have to do this because of how I look, because of all the money I've accrued. Why do you think I have all this money? So I can be insulated. Why do I not want to address the issues? Because I don't want the backlash that comes from addressing those issues as a white person. And so now when you have people going into Beverly Hills, you're realizing, oh shit, this is how it feels. This is the angst that, black people, like I literally was at a pizza store today, a restaurant today, like a pizza parlor, and a cop walks in, and I'm like, shit, like, do I have anything on me? I'm like policing my movements, my mannerisms, trying to figure out, should I sit down? Should I stand up? Remember, don't reach to your pockets. And like, I was hesitant to grab my wallet to pay for my food. No one should have to live like that. But now because people have to think twice, oh shit, should I take that road to work? There might be protesters out there that could get violent. Should I do this? Should I do that? Now all of a sudden you feel like what it feels like to be a black person in America every single day, and you don't like the shit. And it is making you emotional. And it is making you irrational, huh? Would it make you so irrational you might go and loot some shit just to lash out? You might destroy some shit just to lash out? Is that how you feel? That's what it sounds like. So this is what happens. Some people feel like we've been telling you over and over and over again how we feel unsafe, and you didn't care. So now clearly you need to feel what we feel, because that's the only way you'll understand. And they don't want to hear that shit because now it's real for them, and they don't know how to process it, in my opinion.
No, they don't. And this guy kept getting in my face, and he was like trying to walk through me. I was on my bike. I said, and I finally had to put my phone in my pocket. I was like, dude, you're not fucking walking through me. So he walks 20 feet out of the way, grabs a bird scooter, and charges it at me with it over his head.
What the
Like he wants to smash my head in. And he's full of crazy rage.
Okay, hold up. Did the cops stop him?
There was no cops around.
Hold up. Did you just say this was at like a spot that had just gotten looted?
Yep, right outside of us, literally a surf shop in downtown Santa Monica.
So it was a spot that had just gotten looted, but the only person being violent at the time was some white guy with a scooter hanging over his head. The camera crews were there. You managed to be concerned enough to show up, but the cops were not there.
Nope.
Because they were protecting everything from being looted.
Yep.
Wow. Man, protect and serve, people. Protect and serve.
Protect and serve. And this guy was Irish, like had an Irish accent from Ireland. And I'm like,
okay, that's weird.
Well, to give a little historical context, if those were British troops in Northern Ireland in the 70s, I don't know that he would be mad at the protesters or the looters. There was times in certain parts of England, in the UK, and maybe even Australia, I think, where Irish weren't allowed in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
Where they were treated, they're the black and native.
They were the red, for lack of a better phrase, redheaded stepchild.
They were of the UK. I mean, they've always been treated that way. It's for him to like, and again, he wanted to cave my head in because I was just saying the media is giving skewed coverage. Like he was.
How much do you want to bet? He was probably liberal.
Of course. He probably, I mean, I had to end a friendship with someone, who had an Obama sticker on their Prius. Because they were just like, oh, I worked hard I grew up in foster care and I said, yeah, but you were a white person. You were, you had a lot of.
Try being in foster care, being a black person. It ain't the same.
Exactly.
It ain't the same.
Your foster care situation sucked as a white person. It's worse if you're black. And then you were able to work hard and earn money in a system that allows you to succeed if you work hard as a white person. Like,
yes,
there isn't all these barriers. And I think it's like, that's the thing that to me, and I've said this on my show, it's like, I talk specifically to like white people, like this is on us. We have to take responsibility. We have to look at all the ways we had privilege. I'm a middle-class white guy. I'm not in the 1%, but that's a lot of privilege right there. That's a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot more than what people think.
And
that, I mean, that's the fact that the situation with your house, for example, is a heartbreaking situation, right? But the truth of the matter is, Like, I've never been able to say that, and neither has my mother.
Right.
That I lost a house. We never had an opportunity to get one. It was literally, that was never a possibility in my mind, in my mom's mind. As much as we dreamed about it, it was just that, a dream. And so even as heartbreaking as that is, but this also goes to a greater point that you were talking about earlier. Race goes back to class. Gender discrimination goes back to class. Everything eventually, if you see the way a particular marginalized group is being treated, just know it's coming for your ass. You may not be experiencing it right now, but you will, because at the end of the day, it is the 1% versus the 99%. I talk about this when I talk about reparations. When people say, well, why do we deserve reparations? Why does this particular, I'm like, first of all, if you ask me, I actually believe that Native Americans deserve reparations. They believe, I said the other day on Twitter, said Vietnam veterans deserve reparations as well, indiscriminate of color, because they were forced to fight. I mean, that if there was ever an unjust war, good God, that was the one at the time. And so for me, I got the 9/11 GI Bill. I got vocational rehab. So I had ways, even TRICARE, ways to pull myself out of any particular hole that I might have gotten put in because I had to dedicate 3 years of my life to the military. It was different in Vietnam. You got drafted out of any situation you were in, put in a war that you knew was unjust. And you have PTSD from that. You know, and back then, everybody else knew the war was unjust. So Vietnam vets were being treated in a pretty bad way. But they weren't getting the benefits that we got today. So a lot of them are just homeless. A lot of them are broke.
Talk too about the class war of that draft.
Yep.
If you had a college degree or what, you got a college deferment.
Trump dodged it, right? George Bush.
I mean,
George Bush dodged that war, didn't he? George W.
Yeah.
And isn't that insane? His grandfather's his grandfather's on the War Economy Council. He's the reason one of the reasons we have so many wars. And George W. Bush gets to dodge it and be president.
Yep. And I mean, but he served. No, his dad made him give him a National Guard post in the stateside. He didn't have to go. The people that fought the Vietnam War, by and large, were the poor and the working class. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you didn't have a shot at college, you had to either go to Vietnam or Canada or shoot yourself in the foot or something like that. I mean, or
and even that, you know, they would be like, oh, we'll see how bad it is. That's back in the day when asthma did not get you out the military. You better get it popping with that inhaler, okay?
Yeah.
They would have a nice. If you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockfin Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.